here is to look more at, not so much at rice itself, but rice in the system. So look at this most holistic insight from the ag assessment. And next, this ag assessment, which actually was written also by CGIAR scientists, more than almost 40, I think, participated in the writing of this report. So it's something from within the system as well as from outside the system. 400 people have been writing on agriculture, looking at agricultural knowledge, science and technology, 50 years backwards, understand where are we today and why we are where we are today, and then try to look forward. So what were basically the big questions, which again go in the same direction of what we need to do in order to assure the rice supply. Because rice is just one of the cereals and one of the many crops we actually need. So I think we have to make sure that we place rice in the right context here of agriculture and food systems. So we were looking at, the problem of hunger and poverty. How is it that we heard it before, that despite food evolution, despite actually that we grow plenty of food, we still have a lot of hungry and poor people. It happens that most of them actually the same, the hungry and the poor, and most of them actually live in rural areas. So something there somewhere has not really panned out with our way of doing agriculture, obviously. The issue of improving rural livelihoods. So again, here we need to look into this more carefully. The issue of nutrition and health. We heard it, 1 billion hungry, but we have 1 billion obese people, and not only in the developed world, also in developing countries. So again, something is wrong with the way we nourish ourselves. Maybe we do feed ourselves rather than nourish ourselves. And again, we have major environmental problems, social problems, and also economic problems to deal with. So how can we now move forward and make sure that we really put some real meaning behind sustainability, behind the talks we heard before? Because there's been a lot of talks, but where is the action? And I think that this report really maps out the way forward. Now, we have also challenges, and the challenges, the 4 points I mentioned, there are already challenges, but the bigger ones actually make us more difficult to achieve our results, is because climate change, the population demand and demand growth, which is changing as we know, and by shrinking natural resources. We are using more of our natural resources than the Earth produces, we know that. So that's why we need to reduce our footprint. If not, our bank account will be empty soon and there's no interest to live from. We have to think about this much more hard. So let's take the first 2 points, eradicating hunger, poverty, and improving rural livelihoods. So again, we need to empower farmers. We need to empower them, not just sell them something, but empower them to make their own decisions, to make sure that they can actually work with their capital. Women in particular, we heard it from Kanayon Wanze earlier also, who is important out there, for whom are we working for? And in particular, access to education, skill development, very key information. We live in the age of information. Amazing how little information actually reaches the farmers. We know a lot of stuff. We know so many things how to do it. Is it getting to the right people? Do the people who need it really have access to it? No. And that's a matter of policy. Access to inputs. There's a lot of inputs needed of all sorts. Again, are they accessible everywhere? By a long shot, they are not. And again, I think what we need is more diversity in the suppliers of those goods rather than a more concentration. Because of agriculture is very locally specific. There's a lot of specificity on farm or region, district. So again, I think we have to make sure that whatever goes out there is really adapted and right for those conditions. Land use and land ownership has been a big issue everywhere in the world, and unless this is solved, again, through policies, little will happen. And the access to water, microcredit, microinsurances. So if farmers need to take a risk, and farming is the most risky business. Just hear what's going on in this country, in Asia, a bit of a drought, a bit of a flood, and huge problems. And these are risks which the farmer is exposed to, and for which he needs or she needs to be insured. So that's actually very important, just as important as any other seeds or biology part which you may put into agriculture. So that these innovations are actually taken up and connected to knowledge, to make what we want to make here, more productivity on the farm level. Biology, soil is a living body. And so we can work again on seeds for a long time. We have such a huge yield potential which is unrealized, and why? Is because we have neglected the basis of agriculture, the farming system, and the soil science. And I think we have to re-establish so that the priorities there also in the right places. And again, if we do all this, we'll have more resilience in the system, bringing more of this biodiversity into the system, because that adds resilience to a system. So let's bring things together and have those ecosystem services on which we all rely. We rely for air, we rely for water, we rely for economic pest management, on pollination. So all these are ecosystem services which we cannot just forget for the sake of just high yield in one single crop or another, which we have done in the past. Agriculture is not alone in the system. Agriculture is just one little part of a very complex system out there, and unless we start to realize now that there's all these connections in that system, we'll never get where we need to go. And everything is really connected. I mean, look at what agriculture does with climate change, for example. All these connections there, very important ones we cannot forget. As well as the connection between agriculture and culture. Agriculture is actually a two-word word. It's agri and culture. So I think we need to make sure we continue to think about this when we move forward, when we do our science, and also we do our policies. And we need to now take this holistic view. And when we have a problem, when we have a crisis, what do? Quick fix. We throw some new seeds out there, some fertilizer. We've done this how many times? It works. How long is the question, and at what cost? And so don't we know how to do better? Yes, we do. Next. And just here, just a quick graph on all these connections in the system. And I think we ought to sit down and think about the system before we go on doing a lot of more research. Where are the real roadblocks in agriculture? They actually may be outside. Very often they are, if you look at the system properly. As we know so many good things to do. But why are they not happening? Because they are somewhere else in the system. We need to think also multifunctional. Agriculture is actually done at the intersection of the environment, of society, and the economy. So it is all interlinked, and we cannot just do agriculture in agriculture and forget about all the rest. So again, very important, because cultural issues are really key. When it comes to the climate change, again, I think going back to agriculture is now a big part of the problem. We know about a third of the greenhouse gases do come from agriculture, partly deforestation, partly our practices. Now again, how can we help? We can help a great deal. We could actually, if we were to move agriculture to a more sustainable practices, agroecology, conservation agriculture, organic agriculture, there's a number of those options out there. We could actually absorb as much carbon as the whole transport sector produces. So we actually can become part of the solution, well, be part of the problem. And everything actually here again goes back to the soil. So if we have a good soil, we have more plant health, we need less artificial means to control our pests because we have a strong plant. We have more productivity on the farm, not just the yield of a crop, but no, the farm productivity is important, that we raise it. And that becomes then the solution to the environmental, social, economic problems. You can see that all these pieces do really fit together very well. And again, by doing things right, we can move in the right direction. And just here, you know that rice, is a contributor to greenhouse gases. By a long shot, not the biggest and the worst in agriculture, But everyone, as we move forward, will have to do its share of the road towards making agriculture a whole lot more environmentally friendly. When you look at the population and demand growth, again, today we do actually produce enough food for 9 billion people. We do. So all this talk about 100%, 70% more food, yeah, we need more, but the question is where and produced by whom. So again, I think we need to really rethink a little bit these statements which are made out there, flat, oh, we need more this and that, but I think we have to qualify this a whole lot more. And we know that Asia in particular is an area where we do need more because people, still with more people, we have a lot of restriction and constraint in terms of growing food here with land. And so in some areas we have to emphasize the extra production. In other places we can do with less, and maybe we do very well with less, because food sovereignty and food security go together. Countries need to be able to produce at least a large part of their food themselves. Not everything, as we know. Trade will be important too, but you cannot rely on the neighbor when it comes to food. See what happened at the last crisis, how people started to close exports. There were riots, governments fell. Why? Because there wasn't really enough in those particular countries. So how can we rearrange where food is grown? So we need to also reduce the pre- and post-harvest losses. We are losing about 40% of our food in pre- and post-harvest. And when you take just the post-harvest one, actually even post-retail in the developed or the OECD countries, almost 30% is thrown away. This means food is too cheap. You wouldn't throw away your gold down the sink or into the rubbish pile. So again, I think we need to rethink the whole agricultural system there, because the wastage is enormous. And to me, it seems more easy to actually reduce the wastage than to go try to grow more with a lot of inputs, energy, water, land, and a lot more research. So maybe we want to rearrange things. And also some of the fungi, aflatoxins, which are attacking our food. So that's something I think we can deal with. We know the constraints next, which we're going to have in terms of water and temperature. So again, we need to mitigate for this and to adapt, and I think science is working very hard in that direction. But all this will do nothing if our soils are not well managed. Because one way of mitigating against floods and droughts is to have more organic matter in the soil. So we know that, so we need to work more on this. And really, when you look at research, what are the needs next? I think is to transition. We have to transition our agriculture there from the upper left corner into the upper right corners, from unsustainably highly productive to sustainable highly productive. And that's where, again, more science is needed. We already know a lot how to go in that direction. But again, I think because of the localization of agriculture, we need to make sure that it is done in the right places with the right science. And again, get the farmers involved from A to Z and from Z to A. So that's the whole circular way of doing more research, and we have those needs there. So again, we need to get those conventional farmers to move across. Maybe there's a cost. Somebody else to pay. Why not? Ecosystem services could pay for a lot of this. All those subsidies which go in the right direction could pay for the transition. And the farmers in the middle there, the traditional farmers, the conventional, so the peasant farmers, we need to help them to move up. And we know, I have been myself working in Africa for long enough to know that we can double, treble, quadruple the productivity of these farms within a year without any external inputs, almost. And so this can be done. Why are we not doing it? So I think, to conclude, what we need now here is a fundamental shift in the agricultural knowledge and ecology, and the linked agri-food system policies, institution, capacity-driven investment. So basically, it's time now to act on the policy side, as well as then in the research continuum, to make sure that we're going in the right direction. The direction of multifunctionality and the direction of sustainability. Thank you.